I should have just like went to work and came here because like the blue light would have woke me up.
Blue light and whiskey.
Classic. Do people grow weed anymore? Like now that it's legal, like in the house.
I don't know. Let's start with that topic. Do people grow weed anymore?
No one's growing weed anymore, and it's deeply depressing.
Because it's legal.
Yeah.
And there's not much incentive.
No. I'll actually, really. I was actually gonna say like, being like a Weezer fan is like I have experience with loving people who are addicted to substances, but being a fan of Weezer is like loving someone who is addicted to methamphetamines, but like also runs a meth lab.
So they're making the
Yeah, though, like it's really impressive. You're like, this guy like could be a Harvard scientist if he wanted to be, but he's just embarrassing. And like I love him. Every now and then he gets like clean for a while, and I feel really good. And then like then he releases the Green album. He's back on meth again. Crush your pretty toenails to 1,000 pieces. I should have wore a better shirt. This is like one of my weaker shirts. I wear this painting because it's not that good. But
do I need to spell it out? Irving. I don't get it.
I don't either. Like it's like someone who's named Irving who has problems with people spelling their name wrong. I'm not the target demographic of this shirt.
Because your name's not Irving?
No, nothing near it. I guess like my last name gets spelled wrong all the time, and like maybe I am like tangentially like the guy named Irving spelled ING. Like, the other day someone spelled it like ST, I think EWARD, and I'm like, what? No.
I mean, that's a common way of spelling your last name.
No, WART is like the common one, but with a D. The D.
Oh, that's
the D
a weird
is like
one.
like every time someone throws in the D, I get really like confused.
Like that means you're a steward of something.
Yeah,
it's a title.
I think that's actually the etymology of the name, though. I think that the Stuart kings in Scotland and England were typically like a family that occupied the throne, like interim, like while like if a king died and or like a noble died and like the heir was 7 years old, they would just call up like one of the stewards and they'd be like, hey, you could govern here. I think I get it right.
And then somehow it evolved from a D to a T and became a more common last name.
Yeah, and then like
it's also a first name. Some people are named Stuart.
There was like an inter-French marrying like thing that happened, like Celts marrying Celts, and like that is like so like I think the Stuarts had to leave England for some reason. I forgot why, but like they married into French royalty and for my last name, the spelling is UART, and I think like because of the French influence, they changed the spelling of the last name to a more French sounding one. And then they came back, and I think they ended up taking the throne and then getting kicked out. But I don't think I'm actually related to that family.
I was about to say, are you French?
No, I'm not. Well, actually, my family is really French. Like my brother did the 32 in me, and like
23.
Yeah, 23.
If he's got 32 chromosomes,
I got 32 chromosomes, man. I got so many chromosomes, dude.
He's got as many as Michael. Oh no, Michael! I got that wrong. I thought Michael Jordan's number was 32.
Yeah, I know it's 23. See, we both made the same mistake.
Yeah,
it's called dyslexia.
But your brother found out that he's got a lot of French.
Yeah, it turned out like we're mostly French. There's an explanation for that. I think like the Scottish part of our family, like probably like emigrated to like France or something, and then the Italian part of our family is all Northern Italian, so it's like pretty much basically France. And then it's like a lot of like the German part of our family, I think, is like probably like West German, so it's like closer to France. Or I forgot where France is like in relation to Germany, but like yeah, it's
the next country to the west.
Yeah. So it's like really just like a lot of things that like are close to France, but not quite France.
Makes sense.
I mean, my grandpa's story is pretty cool. Like he was a teacher and he escaped Mussolini's Italy.
Your grandfather, you said?
Yeah, my great grandpa.
Great grandfather.
He like
he was Italian?
Yeah, he was Italian, so he had to get out of Italy because they were making all the educators swear allegiance to Mussolini, and he was like, I'm just gonna leave. So like he just left. So
good call.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been cool. Like he might have had some politics that would have got him killed or something, which would make him a cool person. And I think that might be what probably happened. He became a Boilermaker.
He wouldn't exist if he had gone that route.
Yeah, like
most likely.
He became a Boilermaker, but like he like paid for my grandma to move over, and then like my grandma moved over, and then like that's like the rest of it. But like I don't know much. My dad tells me the cool stories like when I'm too old to like tell them to friends, like kids who would be impressed with them. Like he told me he wrestled a bear. Like, and I'm like, well, I could have used that when I was 10. Like,
that would have been cool. Yeah, you have like wrestling DNA in your family, right?
Yeah, wrestling family, big wrestleman.
How does that manifest in your childhood? Did you do wrestling?
No, I didn't. Like my older brothers did, but I didn't. Like I think my dad was like, I'm not gonna put the younger kids into wrestling.
Gotcha. But you and your brothers were all into music, right?
I think all of them except for all of us play something except for my oldest brother. He plays something, but not much.
Okay, so just you and Mike mainly
me and Mike I think are actually I think it's hard. I think I play the most out of everyone, and then I think it's like either second is David or Michael. I don't know which one, but like my brother David's a really good guitar player though.
Oh
yeah, so is Mike. Mike's a guitar player primarily.
Right, and a drummer.
Yeah,
but so how many brothers do you have, or how many
siblings
like 3.
Do you have?
Okay, so just the oldest one is the least.
He plays
music.
bass, but like he doesn't even
so
own one. He doesn't really own a bass.
I mean, just playing it all, I think, is somewhat rare.
Yeah.
Do you have any sisters?
No sisters.
Wow,
My
just
mom.
A family of four brothers.
Yeah.
It's perfect for having family bands growing up.
It really kind of is, yeah. But
and you had a couple, right?
Like me and my brother had like 2 ironic projects that were awful. Like, that, like I'm terribly embarrassed by, but like
was Flesh Pounder?
Yeah, well, it's called Sufferfist, and Sufferfist sucked. Like, well, like what happened was like it was a band, like it was an ironic metal band. So like when people started like one guy in the band, like my brother had like a powerful amp, so there just was like this amplifier arms race, and people were buying like cheap 100-watt line 6 amplifiers that were like, but like no, like that, but like the full stack version. And he
Oh,
drowned out the rest. Like this guy just drowned out the rest of the band and like completely.
was it a head and
Yeah, it was
cabinet?
a head and a cabin and fucking destroyed the band because no one could hear themselves. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't hear the drums over it, and I was playing drums.
Wow. You don't want to be hearing 100 watts of line 6.
No, you really
early
don't.
2000s digital
Yeah,
emulation.
early 2000s chorus effect. Line 6. It was a nightmare.
You know, I'm still rocking my line 6 Spider, the first real amp I ever bought. I think it's like a 75 watt combo, and I actually have grown to really like it. Only
They're
as a
good,
clean,
yeah.
just I use it clean only.
Oh yeah, no, on clean they're actually like not bad. Like I like bright guitars, and I think like the thing with them is that the the thing about like solid state is that like all the levels going in from the input are like completely even, right? Like, and so like if you have like a big EQ on it, you could get some pretty good sounds out of it.
Yeah.
It's just like tube is so out of the box, like they boost the bass, like the bass is inherently boosted. They're inherently scooped, like the mids are like kind of scooped, and then like they break up and they do cool things. But like I like clean guitar, and nothing's cleaner than a solid state. Really isn't.
Well, like blackface Fender, which I feel weird saying the word blackface in a
It's not
non.
good. Like, why do
But
they
that's
have that
what
name
they're.
still?
That's why what they're historically called. Just because it's like a black grill cloth on a amp, or no, the blackface Fenders have like where the knobs are is black, as opposed to a silver face Fender is like they're silver and reflective. But they really got to change that name.
They really do. They gotta like black fronts, like black grill.
Yeah.
Grill is right there. They get like,
But it's not the grill. I misspoke at first. It's the face where the knobs are.
Oh, that's really.
And before that, they had tweed, which I've got that tweed amp.
Yeah, tweeds are aesthetically great. I used to have
They
this
are.
like really puffy. I didn't know it was a guitar cabinet until it was too late. But I had like a set of 315s, like, and they were like in the puffy, shiny Tolex that like custom used to make. And like,
Did that you go with that amp?
yeah, I actually paired the two together.
Wait, you had three
315s.
like 115.
Yeah,
like
315s. Like they were in one cabinet.
Oh, one cabinet.
And like it sounded like shit.
Were they stacked vertically?
Yeah, it sounded like shit. Like it was like really bad sounding, but it was because it was a guitar cabinet. Like the back of it was open. Like all these like signs. Like,
Are you sure?
I'm like,
no one uses 15-inch speakers. on
no,
guitars.
I'm like positive. Like I actually like looked into it eventually, but like it turned out to be a guitar cabinet. And that's like kind of why it sounded bad.
Well, I wasn't expecting us to go so
Yeah,
nerd
shop
on
talk.
bass and guitar amplification right off the bat.
I
But,
think
you know,
that-
this is 90% of the conversations we have in real life. So I think it's appropriate.
Makes sense.
I haven't even introduced the podcast, but I think I'm not going to do that
Yeah,
because
we're just gonna talk
hate,
shop for like
Yeah,
2
it'll
hours.
gradually segue into Weezer, but I'll edit the bad parts.
Do you think
out.
they used like new metal amplifiers for the Green album? Like there's something wrong with the distortion on there and the production.
Yeah,
It's really
it sounds very artificial.
yeah,
and
it sounds
bad.
like really bad. Like, and then like Pinkerton sounds like so like fucked up, and like all the levels are like wrong in the right way, and it's for sure was recorded the reel to reel. I'm like 100% on that. Like I'm just listening to it and I'm like, this is reel to
Yeah,
reel.
what it was recorded probably sometime in '95.
Yeah, this was like recorded in some like analog fetish like guy in the 90s is like small operation studio maybe, or maybe Geffen was still using.
Yeah, I didn't bother to look up the history of the recording, but obviously
Yeah.
it's on tape.
No, it's definitely on tape. And then like some of the demos from it, like you could hear audible like high frequency loss, like where it's just like Like, there's a
Mm.
cut of Devotion that's, like, awesome because like, it just goes, like, the guitar parts, like, are just going like, like, it's like the same thing we had on the deck when it was all fucked up.
Whoa,
Like, when it was, like, doing Muppet shit, like, it's really good.
that's crazy. Well, you said those were demos, so maybe Rivers was using something like an
Yeah,
actual
I
tape.
think it was cassette he was using on those, just because cassette does that with the highest frequencies, and he's playing off of, like, a Moog, and, like, some of the
You've,
frequencies you get are pretty nuts.
are you hearing some of these demos from the Alone
He put some of them on
album?
there, but, like, a lot of like, Weezer's really funny. I'm a pretty funny person to talk to about, like, the Weezer thing, because like, I'm, like, somewhat of a super fan, like,
That
and I
makes you the perfect person to
yeah,
talk
I'm the
about.
best person to talk to about it. I'm a vehement defender of Pinkerton, I think, like
Does it need defending? I feel like it's pretty
there's people who
unanimously.
really hate it. There's, like, a revival of hating it again, like, and it really sucks that people are, like, back on that are people siding with Rolling Stone, but, like,
Is it
big
for,
Rolling
like,
Stone.
politically correct reasons?
I think, not necessarily. I don't know. There's, like, maybe to, like, some degree, there's politics in it, but I think that the album, like, comes from the perspective of, like, a flawed narrator, right? Like, and it's, like, a pop album, which is, like, there's, like, psychology in a pop song is, like, interesting just because like, in a pop song, the song is writ like in blues, right? It's a lot of storytelling, and in folk music, it's a lot of storytelling. The person singing is telling their story, and I
Mhm.
think in pop music, the song like, there's, like, a Roland Barthes style death of the author thing going on, right? Where it's like, this song is written for someone else's, like, consumption and to apply to their own lives, like, right? Like, it's like this kind of thing where like, what's really amazing about Pinkerton is that, like, he writes hyper specific, hyper personal songs, and they're still pop songs. Like, at the end of the day, those are people sing along with them at the shows. People, like, were screaming during Green Album to play them during the shows, and he would, like, play the intros and then fake them out and play one of the fluffy pop songs just to antagonize the listeners. But,
They took
like
a pretty long break between Pinkerton and Green,
they did,
right?
yeah,
Was
yeah.
that when he went to Harvard? Was that after Pinkerton or
I
before?
think he finished Harvard by the time he went to Green, but, like, I think he was,
Right.
like, maybe in Harvard during Pinkerton.
Because my memory is, like, Green came out 2000 or 2001, and Pinkerton's, like, 96. So
Yeah.
that's 5 years or
Yeah, that's,
something.
like,
That's
5
pretty
years. I
long.
think they forced him into doing it too, like, 'cause it's Geffen, but
Was he about to give up on being in a relevant rock band or something?
I'm not sure. He fired Matt Sharp, which is, like, really devastating, but,
Why do you know anything about the history of that? Why did
I
I didn't
think,
know it was a firing. I thought maybe
yeah,
they
he
just
was,
had
like, just
a
replaced unceremoniously with no announcement, and Matt Sharp was a guy who was, like, pretty active in the music scene that, like, Rivers was involved in. I think it's because, like, there's the songs from the Black Hole thing, which is, like, I think, like, Rivers wanted to write, like, a rock opera, and, like, he wanted it to have, like, male and female vocals, and he wanted it to be, like, really synthesizer oriented, and this is Rivers' side of the story, but at the same time, like, Matt Sharp is doing a band very successfully that is the same exact thing as that, like, and
the re
like, the
what's
Rentals,
the
yeah, yeah,
rentals?
and he has, like, a lot of, like, A-list and indie rock, like, people in the band. Like, the Rentals is kind of like a super group to a degree. Like,
You said and they kind of do rock opera stuff?
not really rock opera stuff, like, the rock opera thing was, like, a weird thing Rivers wanted to do, and I've listened to some of the tentative rock opera tracks, and they're, like, actually pretty bad, like
He's always flirted with that idea of rock opera or at least
Yeah.
prog.
I think it's because it would be the answer to Pinkerton, because like, the thing about Pinkerton is that, like, you have this very personal album that's a pop album, and I think that, the first I think, like, Pinkerton and Blue Album are, like, responses to each other, right?
Mhm.
In pop music, right, it's everybody's song, right? What's interesting about, like, Aretha Franklin's Respect is that, someone could listen to that, and they could apply it to how they're treated at work. They could apply it to, like, how their boyfriend treats them, how, like, men treat them, how, like, it is to be, like, a struggling Black woman, like, getting respect and stuff, right? Like, that's, like, the song "Respect." What's amazing about that as a pop song is that it's so applicable to so many different things,
Mhm.
and, like, with pop songs, I think, like, especially, like, romantic pop songs, which is kinda like what Weezer does a lot of, like, romance themed things, like, the idea of, like, an other is, like, a kind of fantasy, right? Like, it's, like, an open concept, and I think in the first album, like, the idea of, like, a fantasy, particularly a romantic one, or, like, that kinda thing is, like, that's, like, a source of comfort and a source of joy, right? Like, there's, like, a lot of fantasy in that album, like, In the Garage is about playing D&D, like, Holiday is about escaping off with, like, a loved one to, like, a far off distant land, like, the song like, the album, like, one of the more interesting songs is, like, the sweater song, which is where the comfort object, like a comfort blanket, like a comfort sweater, is, like, destroyed, and that would be bad. And then, you
Yeah.
have, Only in Dreams, which is really, like, Pinkerton and Blue Album both end with, like, summations of, like, what the album's about, I think, like, that's my opinion on it. Like, and,
Butterflies, a summation of the
yeah, yeah,
whole Pinkerton.
cause like, Only in Dreams is, like, literally dream person, right? Like, it's a person, like yeah, like, it's, like, this thing that keeps you sustained, like, the fantasy keeps you sustained and happy, and then in Pinkerton, it's an inversion. The fantasy is killing him, the fantasy is making him miserable, the fantasy hurts him on every level, and then, like, also the fantasy is hurting other people. Like, I think it closes with Butterfly, which is, like, seeing this person as, like, a kind of, like, as a, like, a fairy pet or something, and then, like, just destroying them, and it's a reference to, like, Madame Butterfly and, like, the woman, like,
Yeah.
killing herself because, like, her love, like, is unrequited by this, like, crappy American visitor tourist guy, like
Found a lovely butterfly when I woke up today, working on my fairy pen. She had withered all away, no more sighing in her breath. I'm sorry for what I did. I did what my body told me to. I didn't mean to do you harm. Every time I think of what I think I want, it slips away. There it goes, it slips away. Smell you on my skin for days. I can't wash away your scent. Found my dog and you're a bitch. Maybe you're as real as me. Maybe I can live with that. Maybe I need fantasy. Life of chasing butterflies. I'm sorry for what I did. I did what my body told me to. I didn't mean to do you harm. Every time I think I'm what I think I want, it slips away. There it goes, slips away. I told you I would return when the robin makes his nest, but I ain't never coming back. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
yeah, like, I think,
Yeah. The whole title comes from Madame
yeah,
Butterfly
yeah, yeah,
too,
no,
right?
totally.
His name was Pinkerton, the
Yeah,
character.
and it's like, when people, like, criticize, I think, Pinkerton for, like, a lot of things, like, a lot of the problematic stuff in it, I think that, like, it's a flawed narrator, and a critique of that is already inherent in the music itself. It's like he's outright saying that his unrealistic expectations of a partner are killing him. Like, they're just, like, absolutely emotionally torturing him. And he's having a bad time. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
and then
I also feel like there's a lot of different narratives happening on Pinkerton, though.
there is, yeah.
There's like the like newly minted rock star who's like having a bunch of like meaningless sex on the first
Yeah,
song.
and he's, like, not having a good time with it.
Yeah, he's
Like,
kind of taking the blame for his own, and like the
yeah.
good life is like he like knows he's had the success and he was living the good life briefly, but then it's like starts.
Like, now he's, like, injured and stuff.
Yeah, he had that leg
Leg-
lengthening surgery
like,
because his two legs are
he got the-
different
He
lengths.
got the Chad surgery.
Chad surgery, is that the
It's
technical
when guys
term?
get their jawline, like, increased and, like,
Oh.
get their height, like, their height increased. Like, there's been rumors that, like Elon Musk got his, like, shins, like, boosted, so he's taller.
I mean, that's literally what they did to Rivers, but only on the leg that was
Yeah, just on the one
shorter,
leg.
and
Like,
they made it match his other leg.
Yeah.
It was probably really annoying to walk around before he got the surgery,
it's
but
like,
apparently it was excruciatingly painful. Too.
yeah, it's like a really good album, and I also think that, like, the Rolling Stone, like, critique of it is, like, pretty pedestrian, because I also think it, like, actually, like, is a good feminist album, because, like, it, like, exemplifies that, like, holding these, like, unrealistic expectations are going to make you miserable. Like, it's just, like, not a happy place to be. Like, no one's, like, listening to Pinkerton. It's like, oh man, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
Or they are, like, listening to it and they're like, I am like that guy, and it's unfortunate, and that's why it, like, feels good to listen to this and hear someone else with the same pathologies as me. Like,
Yeah, I think it's definitely some combination of those. You can tell Rivers knows he's being very unlikable at points.
yeah, and there's, like, a long tradition in pop music, well, not necessarily pop music, but in blues music of, like, an unreliable narrator. And I think, like, a lot of people, and, like, I actually mentioned the Roland Barthes thing just because, like, The Death of an Author is, like, a essay that comes out in the mid-60s, which is, like, right around the emergence of pop music actually as a phenomenon. Like, and it's like in blues music, unreliable narrator is, like, an old concept, right? There's, like, so many blues songs about, like, being, like, a pimp or, like,
Or
shooting
like,
people.
Hey Joe,
like,
I'll
yeah,
shoot
like-
my woman
like,
down.
or like Stacko Lee, like, just like one of the most covered songs in history is, like, about a guy who murders someone over a hat. It's, like, clearly, like,
Right.
like, some of these songs, like, and that goes into like rock music, hip hop. Country has a ton of, like, unreliable narrators. Like, almost every song's an unreliable narrator.
See, I never took Pinkerton that way though.
I never
always
did, yeah.
took it to be like Rivers telling a bunch of fucked up stories about his love life, but it seems they all seem very genuine to me.
No, they are. I think that
Like, what's an example of an unreliable narrator on Pinkerton?
like, I think just, like, him in general, like, he's acknowledging that he's, like, a messed up guy. Like, I think, like, Across the Sea actually does it, like, quite a bit. Like, he's, like, admits having an attraction to this person and then, like, quickly corrects himself and says that it's wrong. Quickly, like, corrects himself that he'll never act on it. And
Yeah.
it's, like, I think it's hard for people, like, doing critiques of stuff to, like, kind of, like, look at the nuance of that and, like, deal, like, because he's highlighting the contradictions, and it's hard for people to deal with contradictions. Like, I think, like, a lot of people want it to just kind of be, like, good, like, and correct, but, like, that's not how the world, like, everything in the world's fucked up, and, like, you could talk about how fucked up the world is, like, with those songs, like, even, like, it's really
Right.
a kind of negligence of, like, critical discourse to kind of do that. But
It also really bums me out that he seemed to have stepped back completely from that kind of honesty
it killed him,
in
yeah.
music.
It really killed him, like, and I think, like, that's really, really unfortunate because, like, his description of what Green Album is supposed to be is like he talks about it. He's like, okay, well, everyone got mad at me when I was like self-confessional and all these other things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write the most undeniable and perfect pop songs. And I think he used like Soundgarden and Nirvana as like an example of pop songs, which is very telling.
But the Green Album has none of that
No,
dark
it
heaviness.
doesn't. It has nothing like it. And I don't think he realizes, but like, bro, like Pinkerton was a pop album. Like people are like the song like Pink Triangle, for example, could as much be about like a person attracted to someone who's gay as much like a person who's gay and who's attracted to someone who's straight can like also sing along with that song and like kind of like appreciate the same psychology. It's just like really, really interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't have to completely identify with
Yeah.
every lyric in a song.
No,
to
yeah,
enjoy
like
it.
and that's like what pop magic is. Like it's just like with Aretha Franklin's like Respect, like you could just have like a bad job. You don't have to be Aretha Franklin to sing Respect. Like it's just like
Right.
it's like there's a lot of things like and yeah, it's really unfortunate because like he kind of like backed away from that kind of experimentation, like someone formally creating like a pop album that's like really, really catchy, really, really beautiful, really, really interesting. And then like he just like steps away from like all these kinds of like formal experimentations and like really just like hunkers down and does the Green Album.
Okay, yeah, the Green Album is definitely a low point in his
Yeah.
creativity or just honesty in songwriting, I think. But I think there's glimpses of that old Rivers.
Yeah,
in
yeah. No,
other
Island in the
albums.
Sun is like really, really close to like.
You think Island in the Sun is an example of
Yeah.
honest songwriting? That's like the most cynical
Well, no, like that
cash
was
grab.
no,
of-
that was like just a recreation of Holiday off of the Blue Album. That's why I like it.
Maybe lyrically, but it's
Yeah.
so
It's the only one that that's the only one that like sees the like kind of pop sensibilities as like a fantasy in an interesting way. Like
yeah, and actually Blue and Green do have a lot in common, and I don't just mean the album art and the self-titled
Yeah,
name and the solid color. Even in Blue, he had those corny elements of his songwriting.
no, he definitely did. I think
Holiday is
like
kind of a corny song.
yeah.
On the road with Caroline, gentle in his bivouac. On this road will never die. Beat heart, beat heart, beat. Let's go away for a while, you and I, to a strange and distant land where they speak no word of truth, but they don't understand anyway. Holiday far away. Stay on a holiday far away. To stay on a holiday. That was very chaotic. First time playing. Which key is it? I'll just make the bass line.
E minor, I think.
Yeah, but there's like a thing in Blue where he acknowledged like because those are all fluffy fantasy songs like but like in Blue Album he acknowledges some of the artifice in it. He's just like in My Name Is Jonas, like it's a song about going away to college, but like you could see like his family life is sort of falling apart. Like there's aspects of his life that are like kind of falling apart. And then like
I never heard it as a college song. I thought it was about construction workers.
but
or
like yeah, there's
something.
like he's
It's like the foreman has injured his hand.
yeah, but that's like
Dozer will not clear a path.
it's like his brother. I think it's about going to college. I do.
I'll have to look at the lyrics again.
My name is Jonas. I'm carrying the wheel. Thanks for all you've shown us. This is how we feel. Come sit next to me, pour yourself some tea. Just like Grandma made when we couldn't find sleep. Things were better then, once but never again. We've all left the dead, let me tell you about it. Choo-choo train left right on time. Ticket costs only your mind. Driver said, hey man, we go all the way. Of course we were willing to pay. Workers are going home. The workers are going home. Workers are going home. My name is Weezer. Got a box full of your toys, fresh out of batteries, but still making noise, making noise. This is like now this wheel is flat, and you know what else? Guess what I received in the mail today? Words with deep concern from my little brother. Building's not going as he planned. The foreman has injured his hand. The dozer will not clear a path. Driver swears he loved his man. The workers are going home. Workers are going home. Workers are going home. Workers are going home. Yeah! Workers.
Seems
Oh,
like
wait, no,
you were
no,
saying
my
it
name
could
is
be
Jonas.
it could be about a lot of things. It's not really specifically one narrative.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's a pop song. But like that's not the best example, but like I think like just like Surf Wax America, right? Like it's like you're going to work, I'm surfing all day. Like and that's like a kind of fantasy, like a Beach Boys fantasy.
Right.
But by the end of the song, he's like stranded at sea. Like and then like
See us falling like a bottle of beer. Friend going and I ain't got no fear. I'm watching down the car go real fast. I'm watching down because it's really. I'm going surfing cause I don't like your face. I'm heading out cause I hate the race. I like lots of rats running around in the maze. I'm going surfing, I'm going surfing. You take your car to work, I'll take my board. And when you're out of fuel, I'm still afloat. My buddies and their bodies all come along. They seem invincible, this ain't true for long. The sea is rolling like a 1,000-pound keg. I'm going surfing, I'm going surfing. You take your car to work, I'll take my board. And when you're out of fuel, I'm still afloat. All along the undertow, we're strengthening its hold. never thought it'd come to this. Now I can never go home.
And like the
Yeah.
sweater song is like, please don't destroy my sweater. Like, it means a lot to me. Like,
Hey, bro, how you doing? Pretty good, man. Going to the party after the show? I'm trying to go, but my friends don't really want to go. Could I get a ride?
oh,
Oh man, it's gonna be the best. I'm so stoked. Take it easy, bro. Only maybe, goddamn, I can sing and hear me, know me. If you want to destroy my sweater, hold this thread as I walk away. It go, ba ba ba, do I think, I sink, and I die. If you want to destroy my sweater, hold this thread as I walk away. We unravel, I'll soon be naked. Lying on the floor, lying on the floor, I've come undone. I don't want to destroy your tank top. Let's be spent and just walk away. I hate to see you lying there in your Superman skivvies. Lying on the floor, lying on the floor, I've come undone.
like
Okay.
Holiday, I think is like, Holiday's like a more positive one, but like you're just like isolated. Like, and
It
I
is
don't-
a far more interesting album than Green.
Yeah.
And it's lyrically, sonically, it sounds organic. It sounds like a band playing
Yeah.
songs. Green sounds like someone, it sounds like the kind of music that someone making like a pop rock project would make now. Just
Yeah,
in
no,
in
it's
a
like-
DAW, just
it's
click
like-
tracks
yeah.
and super processed guitar sounds.
I also think that like like Matt Sharp, like in interviews, like downplays how much influence he had in the band, but like his bass playing, like, you know, in the closing track on Blue Album, like that's his bass line. And then like in Pinkerton, he's like actually doing some pretty like slick bass work on it. Like
Oh, yeah,
there's like a couple
totally.
tracks that are like pretty much his, like Tired of Sex is like that's like his bass riff pretty much. And
And I think his, just like with, what's his name from Van Halen, Michael Anthony, bassist who also does a high falsetto backing vocals a lot. Matt Sharp's backing vocals add so much character to songs on Blue and Pinkerton.
he's a really good singer on his own right, I think. Like he has like a really kind of like clumsy and charming voice. Like when he's
I've
singing,
never
normal.
listened to the Rentals.
They're
but,
really good. There's a like I forget her first name, but like her last name's Hayden. Like she appears in it, and she's like big in the indie rock scene. But like it's really synthesizer driven. They had like a mantra when they were recording, which was like, what would Gary Newman do? Like they would just like solve all their problems with just like doing Gary Newman stuff. But like you could definitely hear that. But like I think that like sometimes having the second guy, like I think band dynamics change when people leave. Like I think just like the way that like people compose stuff, like when like one of the, I think that like, because like the Rentals like does show a level of like sophistication and thinking about pop music in like a like higher level for like Matt Sharp. I think definitely so. And I think that like Rivers like did actually bounce off of him a lot. Like, and I
Yeah,
think
I'm
the
sure
two
he
had
did.
like pretty like intelligent, like pretty good conversations with each other. And I think like once he replaced him with Mikey Welsh, like that kind of
who
like,
only made it one album. I
who only made
think.
it one album before
And
he was
they're-
replaced by Scott Schreiner.
You can kind of read that as Rivers was probably in charge of the songwriting and just didn't really get any
that's what
input
Matt
from the
says.
band.
Like Matt says that, and I think actually the closest analog to that is actually like Morrissey and Johnny Marr. Like, I think that, like, Morrissey, like, and Johnny Marr, like, co-wrote a lot of stuff together, and I think that, like, Johnny Marr, like, I think, like, it's funny because like, later Morrissey, like, he's, like, all about British national identity, and then, like, the Smiths, he's, like, all about being a sad guy, and I think when he was in the room with, like, Johnny Marr, it was like, "Let's do sad guy stuff," and then when Johnny Marr was gone, it's like, "Well, I'm a British guy." Like
You might be onto something
I
there.
think so,
Johnny
like, I
Marr is
think
one keeping him
he was the one who was keeping
check.
Morrissey in check. Like,
But Morrissey, I don't know if he plays an instrument, but just never plays it live or anything. But he seems like his sole job was coming up with vocal melodies and stuff.
Yeah,
and Johnny
yeah.
Marr and the other band members, I'm sure, collaborated on creating the music.
Yeah,
So I don't know who Morrissey composes with on his solo stuff, but it's not as good.
yeah, no, it's not as good.
From what I've heard of Morrissey
Like,
solo, which isn't that much.
I haven't heard that much either. It's just like it's not as like he's not writing half a person. That's for sure. Like,
But I want to keep this somewhat focused on Pinkerton because I haven't heard much Weezer post. Really, Maladroit was when I started being like, okay, these 4 albums, they each have something interesting that I like about them, but I kind of lost patience for them after
yeah,
like Make Believe, Red Album, like all this stuff.
as I was saying, like about like being a super fan, like I was very hurt by Make Believe. Like,
Was that the very next
like,
one after
after
Maladroit?
Maladroit, because so like I was physically online, like on the Weezer forums during the period of time like that Maladroit was being like put together, and
Mhm.
at that time,
I wonder if I
like,
saw your messages on the Weezer
oh, you probably
official forum
did,
because I
yeah.
used to lurk. I didn't post, but I
Yeah,
lurked
like the
on it a lot.
Fullerene one, like the old one, like
Fullerene?
yeah, Fullerene, like it was the company that ran the forum.
Oh,
There was the Fullerene one, and then they changed it from Fullerene, and I gave up on it. But
my favorite was the equipment board on the Weezer official website. They would nerd out over all the guitars and bass and drum gear that the band used.
it was really good.
And
Yeah,
Carl, whatever his name is, had the most extensive
Koch.
write-up, yeah,
Yeah.
of a band's equipment that I'd ever seen for a band I was into, and I loved that page so much. All the photos of their
Yeah,
old gear.
like did you see like the ones where they would just have like the wood floor, and like you would just see like the tracks from the machine like spread out, and like just like wires going across. There was like a
Probably.
cool one. Yeah, there was like some like Carl Koch is like a really like interesting photographer for the band.
Is he still friends with them?
I think they're still friends. Like he's been there since the beginning. Like
Right.
I think he might have been like the 3rd person in the fan club, but like yeah. But like
I do want to say that also recent Weezer that I've heard it's very musically competent. He's
he's
never
not
gonna write
a-
terrible songs.
No,
They
he's
might be
not,
terrible
yeah.
from an emotional and like
Yeah, they'll
lyrical
never,
point of
like,
view.
yeah. Because that's the problem. I think like that's like one of the things, like one of my defenses of them usually is like you got like 2 albums about fantasies. Like you have the first album, which is like about fantasies being comfort, like the fantasy of another person being a source of comfort, and then the second one, the fantasy of another person being a source of misery. And it's like, how do you solve that conceptually? And I really don't know. And like it seems like it would make sense if he just didn't. Especially if he got so much shit for like trying to. Like,
Right. Like I feel like he's just following his artistic
yeah.
instincts at this point, and he's probably just writing about the same shit, but he's trying not to repeat himself. So
Yeah. He's
it's
got
coming out different.
he's got like Maladroit was interesting because like he saw that everyone was like annoyed with like annoyed with the Green album, and he like to do penance or whatever, because like he just got like straight up antagonistic with the crowds. Like he would like just like start off like the intro to Across the Sea, and then just cut out and go into like Photograph, or like cut out and like go into like Hash Pipe or something, like, or Island in the Sun. And like not even like the main like singles, like the ones that like were like clearly filler. And like it's just like he would do that to people. And then like I remember on the forums it was a big deal when like he played a song off of Pinkerton. Like he actually like played a song off the album, and like people
Yeah.
were really excited about that. And then like several months later, like he started running the demos by the fans. Like he would just like release the demos like from the recording studio onto the fans, see their response to it, and then kind of like gauge it from there. And then he fired all of his producers. Like he fired like every one of them. He would like be in these meetings with Geffen and he would just like walk out on them repeatedly, which was really, really funny. And like really kind of badass actually for someone at that level in music, just to like kind of walk out and be like, this is what I'm doing as an artist. Like get your producer out of here. I don't want him. And like he like won some awards for like best self producer or best new producer or something, and
For what album?
for Melodroid, yeah. And
Oh.
then after Melodroid, he
That
started to
album is
sing-
produced really weirdly.
It's a really weird.
He produced that?
He produced it. It's all self-produced. And
Is
like,
that the first one he produced himself? I'm
I think it
assuming
is,
Green
yeah.
was. I mean, I would believe it if Green was his first time out as a producer.
yeah.
Who worked with them on the first two albums? I don't even know.
I think it was Rick Rubin on one of them.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm just checking to make sure we're recording. Because those two albums, they sound so good and they're timeless. There's none of this weird, ultra compressed
Yeah.
drum sound that starts happening on Green and Maladroit.
It's really unfortunate because like Patrick's a very good drummer.
He's great.
He's a great drummer. Like he's very
he's
underrated.
so unflashy yet so solid, and like
and-
he has moments where he does kind of bust out with some flashy
Yeah.
fills that are perfectly timed. They're never like too much.
And his buildups are amazing. Like just the way he's like, like
Yeah.
just like those are like always killer. They always hit really hard, and that's such a hard thing for a drummer to like do is be like a little bit more reserved. But yeah, it's really
Yeah.
it's really really good. But yeah, like after I think Melodroid got released, he started releasing a bunch of demos for like a fifth album, and tonally those were very well written songs, like just like really really well written songs. The metaphors in them were really interesting. It wasn't as literal as Pinkerton, but it was like kind of as emotional to some degrees. Like he wrote a really good song about going to soccer games that was like really heartfelt and like kind of beautiful. Like the only thing that was like missing from them was like there was no bass track really recorded at the time, so like you got like a pretty good thing, and there's like kind of like a very skeletal bass part, but it sounded really great. And then he killed all those demos and then like hired a producer, and you got Make Believe, which is like an awful album.
We were talking about this recently. That's the one with Perfect Situation, right?
Yeah, and
Which
I
is
think
a
actually
decent song.
I think Perfect Situation's actually an earlier demo too. Like he numbers all the songs after Pinkerton. Like he starts numbering each song that's written, and then like after that, like you could tell when it was written and when it comes onto an album. Like there's like a whole Weezer Wikipedia where you could track the like marks and stuff. It's like really really interesting, but I think like Perfect Situation might have been an earlier one, or I might have looked into it and it wasn't. Like it's just an
Well,
outlier.
Yeah, I mean, you never know how many of these songs have been kicking around for years in demo form, but it came out as an
Yeah.
official studio track on that album.
There was a song he wrote about being a pig that was heading off to slaughter,
Oh
and
my god.
it's really, really good.
I don't doubt
like
it.
the chorus is like, "Now it's time to die" or something. Like it's awesome.
Here's my assessment of Rivers. I think he is like Mozart level musical genius.
No, he is. Yeah, he's like,
He's incredibly talented.
yeah,
But what he chooses to write songs about, half the time I'm like, okay, good job. You found a way to write a catchy song out of this obscure topic, but do I need to listen to it?
yeah.
Is
it's
it going to become like
like-
a fabric of my life and be something I want to listen to? Probably not.
Yeah, he's not really thinking about like the genre he's working in as much as he used to. Like I think it's just like he was very conscious of what like pop music was in like the 90s, and like 90s is like one of the golden eras for pop music. Like he's not really that wrong when he's saying that Nirvana's pop. Like, I think
No,
Nirvana,
not at all. They're
no,
definitely
Nirvana
pop.
like explicitly wanted to be pop, and like there's a lot of political things you could do with pop. Like I was saying with like the Aretha Franklin thing, like where it's just like you could apply it to all these things. Like you could insert the political into the like everyday. Like there's like a lot of like interesting things you could do with pop music. And like the 90s was like a really, really good time for that. Like the Pixies are like a pop group to like an extent. Like they're not like they're a surrealist pop like group, and it's like they're really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I would argue that any band that's writing 3 to 5 minute songs with guitar, bass, drums,
Yeah,
and
it's
vocals,
like
it's all pop.
it's like all
Like,
pop music.
some of it's more
like
bubblegum
yeah,
and like radio focused than others, but
Yeah.
it's all everyone's kind of writing the same thing.
yeah, it's meant to be like a vehicle that someone will like apply to their lives, and like you know that's
Yeah.
cool. Like that's a cool thing that happens sometimes. Like a product can work like that. Like it's like meant to be this thing that like you apply to your life. Like you know you like buy a screwdriver or something, and it's like it does have things in common psychologically with like commodities, but like that's not necessarily like a bad thing. Or that doesn't mean it isn't empathetic or meaningful or beautiful or
Of course
like
not.
even
It can be
spiritual.
some of the most meaningful art that a person can consume.
Yeah, it's just really, really good stuff. Like people like, I mean, pop's in a pretty bad state today, but like it's just you know like that's you
Here-
can't.
My dilemma with all this is like, is Rivers just incapable of writing an album like Pinkerton, or is it that he was in his mid-20s having really
I think it's
turbulent
kind
time?
of I think it's kind of a job for him now, and I think like
Sure,
like,
it's been a
'cause-
job since his first
like,
major
since he
record,
was, like,
but
18, but yeah.
in his first 2 albums, he was able to channel some
Yeah.
very honest, like brutally raw stuff into tight, catchy pop songs. And now he's like, I feel like he's self-censoring or just trying to
yeah,
flex that songwriter muscle, writing about random things.
yeah, because like I was reading, I was like, I saw the Shakespeare song, like, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I listened to
this
that,
is-
and it's laughable.
it's like one of the worst pieces of music ever written by a human being, but like
This
also
is,
like
a new Rivers song to the theme of Vivaldi's Four Seasons, Spring.
I'm going to Shakespeare in the Park.
Shakespeare makes me happy. Shakespeare makes me happy. And the dude, I'm sure, genuinely loves Shakespeare. These are all genuine songs, which is why I'm asking, like, maybe he's just older, more
Well, like,
boring. He's
he's
in a different
doing-
place in his life.
He's doing a thing where like apparently like I looked into it, like why does this song exist? And like I looked into it, and apparently what Rivers is doing is he writes a bunch of songs, and then he has this like formally very interesting concept, but like the execution of it actually like ends up not being interesting or just like straight up bad, which is like he will take lines from existing songs and then like paste them into a new song and then just like collage them together, and then you'll end up with like Shakespeare in the Park and like
Well, I actually feel like that's not a bad approach to songwriting. I
No,
think
it's really not
lyrics
that-
are
yeah.
kind of like disposable. It's
Yeah.
more about melody and how words sound. And if you can get some real emotional content out of that approach, then great. The Shakespeare song actually seems like a very concise, focused idea.
yeah, it might
of a
actually be
song.
him just being focused. Maybe the rest of the
Yeah.
album's not that bad.
I don't think it was written in a collage way, and I don't doubt that he does that for other songs. But
Yeah, that one does seem pretty focused because it's like I'm going to see Shakespeare. Like,
and I can imagine him like going on a date with his wife, maybe bringing his kids to the Shakespeare in the Park, and it's a genuine song.
maybe he's just like
Does
an
the
old
world
guy.
need that song? Does the world need a song repurposing Vivaldi's Spring into a goofy little
Vivaldi's.
song? Do you want any
A
more?
Vivaldi jingle. It'd be great if that was like a promo for like a Shakespeare event. Yeah, because it's
That
just
would
like,
be a good place for it.
yeah. I wonder why he's like. I wonder why he's like that. It's really interesting. He'll go back and forth. Like the best metaphor is like you just have a family member who like maybe is an alcoholic or something, and like just keeps getting like progressively more embarrassing DUIs, or like something like that, and then they're clean for a while. Like it's just like you get one that's like they yeah, like, I don't know, like, they got real drunk and they, like, punched a cop while naked or something, and it's like, "Oh, no, I don't know that guy." And then, like
Well,
and then they're clean and you love them again. Like
see, I don't see myself ever getting back into Weezer. If that's the analogy, like you
it's
come
really hard for me,
around
yeah, like
to loving that person, that family member again. Like I'm not gonna love Weezer the way I did when I was 14, and I genuinely loved that band. They were like
yeah,
everything I needed in music at that age. But maybe I'm just too old now. It doesn't mean anything.
yeah,
It'd be
I
interesting to find out what kids today think of new Weezer.
new yeah, like, the new I don't know, it's like their reputation is
They
as
gotta
such.
have fans.
Yeah, I think their reputation is as such where, like, even young people are like, "Yeah, it's only the first 2 albums." Like, it's
That's because
like
young people use Google and read,
yeah, they just, like, read
what's
all
the
this
best
stuff,
of
and
list.
it's like, I'm wondering if, like, anyone who's, like, a young producer guy, like, is, like, hearing, like, the Shakespeare song and like, "Oh, this is badass."
Shakespeare makes me happy. Shakespeare makes me happy. Shakespeare, so happy, so happy, so happy in love with you. Are those the lyrics? I'm happy to be with you. I'm happy to be with Shakespeare.
Because there's, like, so many weird kids, like
But is there any band that has been in the game for 20 to 30 years that is better than they've ever been? I don't think
I don't
that
think
band
so.
exists.
Yeah, like Stephen Malkmus like had a pretty good philosophy about Pavement. He's like, I'll reunite the band. We'll do a tour. Like, I want to see those guys make a bunch of money. I want to make a bunch of money from it. And like, it feels good to play those songs with those guys again. And it's like, but I cannot for the life of me get back in the headspace of who I was when I was 25 and like write the same kind of stuff. Like he says that like it would just like yeah, he said that like he would just have to work so hard to like imitate an attitude which he's like mostly outgrown, and that's an interesting approach. But Pavement is like something he should be less guilty about, I think. Like
Does he seem guilty about Pavement?
I think like he feels bad about being like kind of like anti-meaning or something, but I don't think those songs were anti-meaning though. I think they were really heartfelt in a weird way.
I think so too. There's actually a Stephen Malkmus quote that I think of often, even though I'm not a huge Pavement fan. He says that when you're songwriting, melodies and chord progressions, just the musical side of writing songs is the easy part, and there's like an endless supply of new ways to interpret the same simple major scale, and you can hear that in his music. Like he
Yeah,
never really
yeah.
runs out of melodic ideas, but it's the lyrics that are you kind of run dry after a while. You've like bared your soul to the world over 4 or 5 albums, and you're kind of spent. And I can hear that in so many artists that I've followed over the years. Like they kind of run out of things that are urgent to say.
Yeah.
You can fake it. You can write songs about Shakespeare in the Park, but is it as good as Pinkerton? No.
I mean, Shakespeare in the Park is happening next week. That's pretty urgent if you ask me.
Good one.
Sorry.
But as a song, it's not
Yeah.
anything that's gonna like touch anybody, unless I'm sure there's some big Shakespeare in the Park fans that heard that Weezer song and it fits their life.
Absolute banger. Like,
Yeah.
they're like blasting it on the way to Shakespeare in the Park.
I trust Rivers enough as an artist to believe that he's writing his music for somebody, and there's somebody who maybe is in a state of life like him. And
Yeah, it's just like that's kind of what you do when you're that guy. Like you're married.
that's what you
now.
do no
Yeah.
matter what you are. You're writing to your own experience.
Yeah, you can't be too harsh on him. I think like that, like back with like the thing with like.
I don't feel harsh about Rivers at all. I'm
Yeah.
not going to listen to it. But
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah,
don't-
I'm definitely not gonna listen to the latest album.
I
Probably
respect him.
not. I always like listen to the latest album when like I always get suckered in because like it's like the yeah it's like the relative thing, right? It's like where it's like "Hey man, I've been clean for like 2 years." It's like because the Red album, like he apologized for like the past 6 albums or something. Like it was kind of cool. Like,
In a song, he
no, he just like
apologized.
said that. He's like, "Yeah, like I'm like sorry for how bad the albums were." And I'm like, "Well, Rivers, I'll take you back. Like, you got me through high school and early community college." Like,
Um, which at that point was already what 15 years after the albums
yeah, it was like
were new.
so long. Like,
It's weird how music can have that kind of time span, and like you said, even kids today, if they are listening to Weezer at all, they're probably going to go back to the albums from the early to mid '90s.
yeah, because those are really, really timeless albums.
They
Like,
are.
yeah, they really. I mean, there's something like about the production in them. Like all the band members, like as much as like I think Matt dispels that as a myth. I think like all the band members like really do shine in an individual way in that. Like,
I to this day I don't know what Brian Bell adds to the band besides playing rhythm guitar
his
live.
backup is like he does like a lot of the shouty backup vocals. I think like
Really?
I think like the
Crush your
pretty toenails into 1,000 pieces, like that
See,
kind of.
I always thought that was just Rivers being goofy, but
No,
are you
no,
saying
it's,
that's
no,
Brian?
that's how Brian sounds. Like, there's like another song like called Yellow Camaro, which is like written by Brian Bell. Like, it's probably better that they don't let him have all the
Is that a
creative control.
demo?
It's a demo, yeah, but like you hear his voice in it. He sings lead on that, and it's like Yellow Camaro.
Wow, I always took him for a very demure,
Yeah,
quiet
he's
guy.
like probably. I mean, maybe he's being ironic. I don't know. Like,
He's just like a stylish looking dude who
yeah, he is like
has good
he
stage
definitely-
presence, but also doesn't really do much.
He's like the chillest guy in the band.
I'm surprised he's lasted as long as he has in that band.
Yeah, I think it's because he just didn't get noticed. Like, I think
Rivers forgot he was in the band.
yeah, like I think like Patrick is survived by sheer talent alone, and then I
as
think
it should be.
Matt got destroyed because he was a competitor and like someone who was intellectually as powerful. Like,
Yeah, was Matt trying to exert more will into the songwriting or
I
something?
know. I actually think he
and-
wasn't. Like, I think he was just like doing the rentals, and like I think that
Oh,
like he
So
was
it's
able to
exactly-
get bigger names as guest spots on the rentals than Rivers was, which is bizarre. But like,
who listens to the rentals?
no, just me.
But how was Rivers threatened by the rentals?
It's weird, like, cause like I think like he thought that like every guest spot that like Matt secures is one that he could have got because he's in the same band, and Matt's using the cred of being in Weezer to get these people in. And I think like there's
So
just like
when
yeah.
is Rivers seeking guest spots? There's
think
never
he-
been guest spots.
No,
on
like I
Weezer
think
albums.
like he definitely was like during Pinkerton, but like it just didn't materialize like outside of like a lot of things.
You know what this sounds like? I don't know if you've seen the Metallica documentary, Some Kind of Monster, but that's why Jason Newsted got
Like,
kicked out of the
yeah,
band.
and then he had to like do like what was it like Megadeth or Motorhead?
Megadeth. That you're thinking of Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, Dave
their
Mustaine.
first guitarist
Oh, okay.
before Kurt. Jason Newsted was the bassist for a couple albums after Cliff Burton, original bassist,
Oh, he's also a
died.
bass player. Yeah, yeah.
So, and Jason Newsted had a band where he was more the lead singer and songwriter, and he was devoting a lot of energy to that. And I think James Hetfield was threatened by that, and he wanted him to be focused
No,
entirely
that's
on
yeah,
Metallica.
like that's like I think that's what happened. Or it might be nicer because there was a lawsuit between Rivers and Matt for like
Whoa.
5 years.
royalties or
Yeah,
something?
royalties and stuff like that. And like Matt's argument was that he was replaced without notification. Like he wasn't like he didn't even get a letter. Like he like saw the album come out and like they didn't even
What?
didn't even fucking contact them for the recordings or anything. It's really, really brutal.
How did that lawsuit go down? Did he get any?
I think he did get royalties on
compensation?
it. They did squash the beef. There's a really like if you're like a big Weezer fan and you wanted to see the original lineup get back together because you love both projects, like there's a thing where they collaborate together and like Matt isn't like super harsh on Rivers actually. Matt is like Matt's really like his writing about Rivers is actually really nice because Rivers like really got Matt into writing songs on his own, and like I think Matt's first song he wrote by himself was like largely a collaboration with Rivers, and Rivers really pushed him into like writing that song. And like it's a really, really good song. Like it later becomes this song called Please Let That Be You, which is a really, really great rental song. It's probably my favorite rental song. But like
I'm gonna have to do a little rentals research.
yeah, no,
after this.
they're really good. Like and like yeah, like Rivers was like really supportive in that, but like he unceremoniously got like kicked out of the band. He sued for that. There was like a lawsuit, but they reunited on stage in like California somewhere. And like these were like two people who like hadn't talked in years, and like they were collaborators a long time. They did a couple Weezer songs, and then they did a song that they wrote together, which was like a really nice song called Time Song, which was
They had written it recently, and
yeah, they wrote it together. They like
that?
kind of like they like put everything behind them, and they like move forward on it. And they were
Wow.
talking about like doing a like collaboration album with each other, like not a Weezer project, but
Roughly what year was this?
this was about 2000, I want to say 4 or 2005.
Okay,
So like
a
around
while
Melody, right?
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. But he's never gonna rejoin the band. Apparently, Scott Schreiner's
Yeah,
the
Scott's pretty like cemented.
lifetime bassist
He's
now.
played in the band longer than Matt has at this point. It would be kind of
By a
wrong.
lot.
Yeah, kind of
Like,
wrong to kick him out at this point. Like,
and he seems like a good musician and
but like they
solid
could like
singer.
there was talk about this when they were doing a reunion tour where they were just playing the Blue album and Pinkerton. Like there was a tour where they just did only Blue and Pinkerton songs, and I feel bad for missing that. But like it was a really expensive ticket. But they were talking about that like during that there was a discussion like we should have Matt come in and play Moog. like we should have Matt come in and do the Moog work on it. Like
Was
he
he
should
the original?
Oh, he was
Moog
like, yeah,
player?
he was a big Moog head. Like, if you listen to the rentals, like Rivers claims to be the person who did that, but like Matt's really, really into that like aesthetic a lot. So there's just like a big kind of fight between them, and like it's kind of a bummer because I think it's like a Johnny Marr like Morrissey kind of thing where I think that like Matt's approach to pop music, like even from the beginning, has like stayed pretty close to like how Rivers kind of originally operated, where it's like very thoughtful on what kind of music he's making and things like that. And it's really
Right.
funny. For a while, like he tried to get into like visual arts and like photography specifically, and like he like couldn't get into galleries because they kept calling him the Buddy Holly guy.
You talking about Matt or
Yeah, Matt
Rivers?
Sharp, like
It's a weird
but like
thing.
he acknowledges, he's like, oh yeah, I tried to like break in a scene I had no associations with. It's like that's kind of stupid of me.
As you said, a photographer?
Mhm. Yeah, he did photographers and he wrote like a song every day. He got Joey Santiago on one of the tracks for this like he like wrote a song a day for a while, and like he got Joey Santiago on this song called The Song of Remembering, which is really, really good. And Joey Santiago is a great guitar player, but it's like if you're getting like the lead guitarist from the Pixies like on your like project, it's probably pretty good. Like,
Or they're just friends. And
yeah,
get
they're just
along
friends. They
and,
live in
like,
California.
Yeah, I've never been wowed by Joey's guitar playing.
Oh, I love it.
But when I listen to like, there's great guitar work on Pixies stuff, but I never know if it's Black Francis or Joey
Yeah,
Santiago playing it.
I think like
When
Black
I see
Francis
videos of them playing live, it's just like, oh, okay. They're not really a flashy technique band,
No,
though,
they're
so
not,
I don't know
like-
what I'm looking for.
They're
but
like a funny live. I saw them live, and like apparently they have like all these like head cues and like vague cues on what song to play next, but they're like very like 9 to 5 like lunch pail band. Like they show up, they play their
That
set, and
checks out.
there's no banter, there's no talking or anything. Just like set like maybe an encore.
When did you see them?
I saw them like recently with the new lineup. I
With
really
Paz Lenchanson,
yeah,
the
yeah.
bassist?
Yeah, she's pretty good. And the new Pixies stuff, like I actually like it a lot. It's not like the old stuff, but it does sound like what the Pixies would be like if they were all like 50. Like and
Well.
like it sounds really good. It's really good music, but I wish Kim was in it. Like it's just like Kim is such an integral part to that band. Like you can't really call it the Pixies without Kim. And I don't think Kim will ever do it again. Just because like her mantra on it is like, well, what if we record an album and it sucks? So like, it's like one of those things where it's
It's
like,
out of fear.
yeah, she like really like she does like a lot of people play up like her terms with the rest of the band, but like being worse than they actually are. But I think that like she feels like she
Well,
left on
she's
a good
doing the
note.
Breeders.
Yeah, she's
That's
doing the
her.
Breeders.
She has
Like,
her own project.
yeah, and I think she feels that like she left on a good foot with the Pixies, and she doesn't want to like release a bad band or a bad like album. Whereas with the Breeders, I think she's like fine with doing that. Like it's more her project anyway.
Yeah, and that makes total sense to me. I don't know much about their history and like the situation behind her leaving the band.
Oh, it
but,
was like really well, like she left. She just like kind of like yeah, she just like she dropped out of doing a new album with them, which makes sense. Like it's just like hard to resume that after like 20 years. Like
right.
yeah, just like whereas the Breeders, it's like they've been making albums for the last like 20 years, so why not?
Yeah, band dynamics.
Yeah.
They're hard to they're hard to know like what's actually going on without being in the band. I'm sure there's some that are pretty mean spirited and
Yeah, the
bad
Pixies
situations. but-
definitely was in the 90s, but like I think like Kim did a lot of drugs and Frank didn't. Like and like that was a huge source of like antagonism back and forth, and
Hmm.
like I think like Frank was pretty lousy to her, but like as a result of that, it's just like I don't know, like yeah, it's really rough. Like yeah, what do you even do in that situation?
Yeah. Who knows? You could apply the same attitude to my personal favorite 90s band, Smashing Pumpkins. Their original
Yeah,
bassist, Darcy, is nowhere to be seen in music anymore, but they're still a band with all the original members now except for her.
Yeah, yeah. And the new
Uh,
Pixies is good. I would imagine the new Smashing Pumpkins is probably good. Maybe not. Billy's a weird guy.
Him and Weezer, they're the same. Like
No,
I hear a couple songs, and yeah, it's musically it's competent, but it's
yeah,
not.
he got better at singing, I heard, and I'm like, oh,
He got
no.
so much worse at singing.
Yeah, well, like better, but like in a worse way. You know what I mean? Like he's like more,
Yes.
like he's more classically like appropriate. Like someone who's a fancy lad could go to the show and not be mad about the wrong tones or something.
Yeah, I guess his pitch is decent
his pitch
now,
is decent now, but it's like
it was always okay. It was so much better.
you fixed something that wasn't broken. Like,
Or it was just broken in a much more interesting way. Same with Rivers singing, to get back to Pinkerton. Like Rivers, it's one of the best vocal performances in rock music.
it's so good, and those demos are like the demo version of Devotion. I like more than the like kind of album B-side version of it.
I don't
like,
think I've heard the demo version.
It's so much more raw. Like Rivers, like almost all the bass frequencies aren't being picked up by the tape machine, and like you just have
of
like,
his voice.
yeah, you have like a lighter version of his voice, which sounds like much more pained and much more sad.
Hmm.
And like the way that it distorts on the high end on the tape, like it just sounds so cool. Like it sounds like it's such a good performance.
I would check that out. I do like that song, which you turned me onto it. I didn't even I
It's-
hadn't
yeah.
listened to any Pinkerton B-sides.
Yeah,
before
because
this.
like if Pinkerton is about like a fantasy that like makes you miserable and hurts other people, like Devotion is the one song that's the antithesis of that.
Waiting for me, you'll always be my girlfriend. I too, waiting for you, you'll always be my friend.
Yeah, like on Blue Album, the sweater song is the one that breaks the mold, kind of like breaks the kind of like fantasy. Like Devotion's like that, but like you can't really have Devotion and no one else. Like no one else is kind of like no other one. No other one is no other one is the one like that made it to the album, which is like about like okay, like when you're actually with someone and you're actually in love with them, it isn't about them like making your life better necessarily. It's like a partnership and like a long-standing thing. And there's like a little bit of disappointment or maybe even pain to that. And like devotion's kind of a similar thing. It's like settling for someone as like for who they are rather than like what you think like they could be or something like that. It's like a really realistic like view of like what loving is like. And
Yeah, I
yeah.
think you hit the nail on the head with No Other One, the meaning of that song. But I haven't heard Devotion nearly as many times as like No
I
Other One, but it sounds more like a breakup song. Like he's letting go of this person
Yeah,
who's
no, he's
devoted
like
to
ignoring this
to him.
person who he's like perfectly suited to, like who like loves him to death and who he by all means should love to death and like but like he can't do it. Like he needs the fantasy. Like he needs like this like fantasy of someone else and it's just like I mean like the lyrics in are like me too waiting for you. I'll always be your friend. And then there's like also just like and then like yeah, just like you waiting for me. I'll always be your girlfriend. You'll always be my girlfriend. And like it's just this like really interesting thing where like it does kind of like it's thematically like it doesn't necessarily work with Pinkerton, so I see why it was cut. And No Other One kind of hits it a little bit better. And it's also really interesting that those two songs, No Other One and Devotion are both waltzes. Like they're the only 3/4 time signature on the entire
There's
album.
no other one. I never realized No Other One is a waltz too.
Yeah, it's like
Those really
"No,
are two
there
sides
is
of the
no
same
other
cone.
one."
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
3,
1.
2,
I love that
3.
song, man. All these
Yeah, it's-
secret waltzes. I never
Yeah, like
realized.
secret, like I found out my favorite Beatles song is a waltz.
Hold on, let me try to guess.
me.
I don't know. What's your
It's
favorite?
Long, 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 which is the George Harrison vocals
shit.
one.
I don't even.
And
What's
it's
that
like,
White Album?
It's been a long.
Oh,
Yeah, like-
that's not one of my favorites.
It's really good.
George has written some of my favorite Beatles songs, but that's not one of them.
That one's like actually a really good example of a pop song because like it's about loving an unknowable other, right? And that's like a common thing in pop music, but like not knowing how someone else's feels. And that one's interesting because like the figure of adoration in it is like God. So it's like the ultimate unknowable. Like it's just like an extension of
God,
what,
you said?
yeah, it's like about God. Like that song is a pop song written about God, and it's like
He's got a
really
few of
cool
those.
because of that. Like it's just really cool.
You know, before we get back to the Weezer talk, I want to let you know that this podcast is going to be released under the ArtCast moniker. So if we can talk a little bit about maybe the relationship between visual art and music, that would be a nice way to
I was
tie it in.
I was gonna actually make a visual art reference to the Stephen Malcolmus thing too, like with Matisse, because like those songs work a lot like Matisse does. Matisse will like become so formal that his feeling like his paintings have emotional resonance, right? He'll be like, this is not a person, this is a figure in a painting, and he'll do that so hard that it'll be like, oh yeah, this is a person, man. Like, and it's just like, and it's like
And
there's
I think
like
it's
so
the
much
formal elements
Yeah.
to make it give it that.
like, he does
emotional
formalism
resonance.
so hard, he just like does expressionism on accident. Like, and
Is
Stephen
that, like,
Malcolmus
so bad it's good
Yeah,
mentality.
No, it's not necessarily that. It's just like once you like reduce something to like its formal thing like aspects, like it just like kind of explodes in the opposite direction, right? Like there's like that one painting at the museum where like you have the lady looking out the window and it's like very formal, but like it's like, oh yeah, that's like totally heartfelt. Like
Wait, the one with like the fishbowl? Or
yeah, that one. Or even like the woman looking out like the window at like at Nice. Like
yeah, the more big interior.
the
with
big
the
interior
window.
one. And like those like are really powerful. But like Stephen Malcolmus kind of does like AT&T like as a song, like as nonsense as it is, sounds like
Is that a Pavement song?
yeah,
don't
like
know
it's
that
just
one.
like whatever. Like,
Is it about the phone company?
I think it may be vaguely, but it's like nonsense, but like it hits so hard. Like it really like feels like something. And I think that's kind of what Pavement's great at doing. And
That's actually a really interesting point. That Stephen Malcolmus is like the formalist modern painter of
Yeah, no,
indie
like,
rock.
he's like the Matisse of indie rock. Like it's really interesting. Like
You
just
just made
as
me like Stephen Malcolmus more than I ever have.
yeah, no, it's true. Like, I'm
And I
just
do like some Pavement quite a bit.
Pavement's really good. But like there's a thing where he just like says like utter nonsense, but like it gets to like Range Life like is both a song that's like nonsense, but like him talking about like not
Just
being able to
talking
sing
shit about
high.
other
Yeah,
bands of
like
the
he can't sing
90s.
high, like he can't, like he also has no range, but like
Oh, I never took it as a
yeah, like it's like
play
because
on
like his voice
words.
cracks in the song when he's trying to hit the high notes. He's like, I need a range light.
Yeah,
And then there's like just the line, if I could settle down, then I would settle down. Like that's a really beautiful line. And
it is.
yeah.
I think
He's friends with David Berman. Like, I mean, there's no more like emotional and heartfelt and weird guy.
what band is that guy from?
He's the
again?
Silver Jews, and
Okay.
like David Berman does kind of like they actually like came up together. So like the Silver Jews originally like included Stephen Malkmus. Like it was a project between the two of them, and they kind of went their own
Oh,
separate
I
ways.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Stephen Malkmus is on the first 2 albums, I think, or the first 3 actually.
Does
Technically,
that predate the earliest Pavement recordings?
it does. Yeah, it was actually earlier than Pavement, I think.
Okay.
And there's some Pavement songs that like make it from like the Silver Jews recordings, but they had a concept where they would like write down the first song that they like thought of that day, and so like it was all primarily bad, but yeah, like David Berman like is really into like kind of cliches that have like meaning in pop music and like country songs. So he has like a lot of songs where it's like it feels like you read it off the back of like a bumper sticker, but like it also is very sad. Like it's really good. But yeah, I think that there's like more to Stephen Malkmus than like just nonsense. I think that like it does hit like a lot of good things.
I've never found his lyrics or songwriting to be nonsense.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I don't think
he-
most people do. There's people who like do dislike them for the lyrical content, but they're snobs.
You can't listen to Crooked Rain, and not hear a ton of heartfelt,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
authentic lyrics about his experience and his life.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's his attitude that really soured those people. Like
Yeah.
he plays the too cool for school indie rock
That's kind of what he
star.
does. Yeah.
So he's kind of courting that sort of reaction.
And it makes sense that he's just like wouldn't want to do that again. Like, because it's an antagonistic attitude that I have. And he just doesn't
It
want to
is.
start trouble.
Uh,
Yeah, but who would Rivers be in terms of painters? Like, I don't
that's a
even
fun
know. That's a
question.
funny like 2 really good paintings, and then like the rest of it's really formal and bad.
It's too hard because there's no one-to-one comparison. You can pick one aspect of his artistry and find an analog maybe, but I think
Yeah.
nowadays he's like Thomas Kincaid or something
Yeah,
like that.
he's really
Just most formulaic, well executed, but formulaic songwriting in that particular style.
Yeah, he's definitely concocting it out, or like Andy Warholing it, which is also like very.
See, I think Malcolmus is more of the Warhol.
Yeah, he would be more Warhol. Yeah.
Rivers tries too hard. He's like studied classical counterpoint.
No, you're right. There's like
harmony
the kind of like yeah,
maybe
like,
Norman Rockwell.
Yeah, like Norman Rockwell would be a good one. Like, it's so devastating.
Norman Rockwell's great though.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting.
So just back up a second, because we are introducing some visual art topics. I will say you're one of the few people I know who's as passionate about music and various musical artists and as you are about painters. So you talked about growing up playing music with your brothers, but when did you start painting seriously?
Seriously painting, I think probably in high school when I failed art class. Well, I didn't fail art class. I got a B, and they only let you go to the next level with like an A or something like that. The teacher had this thing where like if you were talking too much in class, she would give you a 0 for the day, which would like fuck up your grade. Like no one should be allowed to weight a grade like that. It's like, so like you got 5 days a week, 100%, 70%, 80%, 0%. Like you just fucked up someone's like mathematically. Like, come on, dude. Like
That's pretty devastating.
it's-
So failing
I had to
made
like
you get more into art.
I had to
somehow?
like prove I had to basically do makeup classwork to get back in art class. So like that's I think where I started like thinking of painting as like a kind of expression and not just something I did out of habit or fun.
Fascinating.
Like yeah, like that's probably it. Before that it was just like I would draw all the time. I like drawing stuff. I like making little comics with my brother. Like we would just like sit there and draw stuff that was like way funnier than like Mad Magazine at the time and probably like way dirtier and more foul. But, like,
This was before failing art class.
yeah, this was like when I was like from age like I think I probably drew from like a very early age and it was like mostly dinosaurs when I was like 3 or 4 as soon as I could hold a pencil really. And then like yeah, from there I just like drew a bunch of goofy stuff. And then like I took it seriously when I was like 17 or 16.
in the art class
Yeah,
scenario
like, I thought
when you
it's
needed
like,
to
oh, you
prove
can
yourself.
express yourself with like paintings. Like, yeah.
That's cool. Good to know that the rigors of an academic environment actually helped you do something.
I was
there.
like a drawing only guy for a while too, which is really funny.
So you got into painting around 17 or so, and in
No, I
that
got
art
into
class?
painting when I was like 23 or 24.
Oh,
Yeah, so like before that, I was like, well, chalk pastels are cooler than painting. Like,
chalk pastels are cool.
yeah, they are cool. They do look better sometimes.
They're just so impermanent, but I
Yeah,
guess
they
that's
just fall apart
a
really
good
easily.
lesson for life. But
I liked a lot of graphite drawing when I was in high school. drew some cool stuff.
So where were you at 23 that made you start painting? Was that community
I think
college?
it was like, yeah, the
era?
first painting class I had. I really liked the material of it. It was kind of fun to play with. And
How'd you start? Like jump right into oil paint or?
no, just like acrylic paint, like whatever was at the Michaels by the community college I went to. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Didn't get into oil painting until I went to SAIC in about 2010. I think it was like 25 or 26.
Did you come in as an undergrad?
I did, yeah. I did a transfer. I did 6 years of community college and had a degree as a CNA,
What's
which is
that?
certified nursing assistant.
Whoa. So were you seriously considering being
I was considering going into nursing, and then like the field is really hard and miserable, so I just didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not suited for it.
I wouldn't be either.
No,
Seems
not
like
a lot
tough
of people
job.
are. Like some people could learn that. I can't. Like,
Did you have to do a lot of student nursing stuff?
I
where
did
you
like
did this
5
stuff?
days of clinical where like I cleaned people and like
Then
it's just
you had enough.
yeah, people were like, I don't know. It's like some people, like nurses, have like an interesting type of empathy where they could like for someone like me, you see someone in pain and you're like, oh man, what's wrong? Are you all right? Like, is everything like like you want to solve the problem? Like the person who's a nurse who has like a proper type of empathy for that, it's like just like go in there and ask them how their day is. Like if they want to talk about the pain, they will. And it's just
Isn't it kind of the nurse's job though to find out the pain level?
yeah,
so
they'll
they
do
can
that.
manage
But
it?
like it's the clinical matter. It's like the being calm about it part that I couldn't do. It's like
Oh,
I couldn't be like, oh, this is normal. Like I'm not gonna freak out. Like it's
that's
just
just
like
called getting jaded from years on the job.
yeah,
I'm
no,
sure.
like it's like kind of good they are, but like it's just
Yeah,
like,
you gotta be.
yeah, because like someone like me would stress out the patient. I'd be like worried about them all the time, and like someone who's like able to suspend that worry and just be like, well, like this is a job. Like I could check in with you on a level-headed emotional response, and I just can't do that. Like
Sure.
it's probably why I'm drawn to Pinkerton.
The emotional part.
the over emotional response.
I think you're drawn to Pinkerton the same reason I am. It's just a great album.
It's a really great album. It's pretty perfect. There's really no flaw whatsoever.
You know what? An artist comparison that came to mind as I was listening to Pinkerton in preparation for this week was Robert Crumb. You know how Robert Crumb has some really disgusting things
Yeah,
in
yeah,
his
that's
comics?
like might be adequate. I was actually thinking like just now, like maybe Emil Noldi, who like is like a devastatingly good watercolor landscape painter, but his figurative stuff's not that good. Like not as good. And then like also he's like a Nazi. Like, so
I don't know if I want to put that on Rivers.
I don't want to put that on Rivers. That's not fair.
I think Rivers, the person who's Rivers, has to be like very technically adept.
They have to have like good albums because like Thomas Kincaid doesn't have any good paintings, so it's like
Sure.
now he's Thomas Kincaid, but we need someone who like really fell off and got really bad. And I'm trying to think of like someone like that's like a really hard thing to pull off. Like
That's why, hear me out about Crumb for a second. He's obviously super masterful as a comics artist and just draftsmanship.
no, you're
with
right.
pen.
Yeah,
But some of his stuff is so reprehensible, like morally. But you can tell when you read a Crumb comic that's horribly sexist or like
Yeah.
fetishizing a certain race or something, or just like vaguely racist. Although I like when you read it in a Crumb book, you kind of accept it as just like he can't help his compulsion to share this stuff, and it kind of
yeah,
it's
really
relatable in a way.
It's really OCD, intrusive thoughts kind of thing. It's not like
Yeah.
the best kind of content for like someone who's like from like a group that's being depicted to like kind of read, because like that'll be like hard and awful. But like,
Right.
but you could understand it from like you could understand like its appeal and its critique outside of that. Like, yeah, it's just like an interesting thing. Like it's kind of like made for people like him who have like intrusive, very racist thoughts. And like that's like a lot of people. I think that's like a lot of Americans. But
I think it is too, and I'm not trying to defend racism in any
Yeah,
way
yeah, no,
here.
definitely,
It's
yeah.
more it's kind of more like the depraved sexual stuff too,
yeah, that
especially in
stuff's like
relation
really
to Pinkerton. which
Yeah,
has
no,
that kind of
definitely.
stuff.
Which tons of depravity in Pinkerton. Like it's just like,
But it's subtle. It's not like
Yeah.
hitting over the head with graphic sexual descriptions, but just like it's subtle things about how like in Across the Sea, he's like smelling the girl's envelope and wondering how she touches herself. And
It's
that's a line in the song. It's
Oh, it's like in the song. It's yeah.
it's tasteful in a way, but it's also like you can tell Rivers knows it's over some kind of line, which is why he backpedals in the lyrics of the song.
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
can never touch you. I
Which
know it would be
is-
wrong.
You are 18-year-old girl and you wrote from the small city of Tokyo. You heard me on the radio about 1 year ago, and you wanted to know all about me and my hobbies, my favorite food, and my birthday. Why are you so far away from me? I need help in your way across the sea. Can never touch you. I think it would be wrong. I got your letter. You got my song. Stationary like this, where I'm from, so fragile, so refined, so lick. Your pants fall to little pieces every time. I wonder what clothes you wear to school. I wonder what you decorate your room. I wonder how you touch yourself and curse myself for being across the sea. Why are you so far away from me? I need help in your way across the sea. I could never touch you. I think it would belong. I've got your letters. You've got my song. Turn a shade my
Yeah, that's where the-
head, tried to be a monk. I thought the older women would like me if I did. You see, Mom, I'm a good little boy, good little boy. It's all your fault, Mama. It's all your fault. Oh, goddamn, this business is really lame. I gotta live on an island to find the truth. So you said you love come all around the world, and I got to live on words and dreams and a million streams of how I need a head to find to feel. Why are you so far away from me? Why are you so far away from me? I could never touch you. I think it would be wrong. I've got your letters. You've got my song. I've got your letters. You've got my song. We fucking nailed that. We can never run for office.
I think Pinkerton's appreciation comes in cycles. Like, I think there's eras where we appreciate it more, eras when we don't appreciate it more. And I think like it'll come back. Like, I think it's just like I think it's still pretty good. I think like most people aren't siding with Rolling Stone, but like I think it's just like it's really there's something about it. Like there is like an acknowledgement of like how like terrible everything he thinks is. Like, and it's just really interesting because like there's like I think like Clement Greenberg actually talks about avant-garde art being art that highlights the contradictions of the world we live in, like art that really like highlights. I'm pretty sure it's Greenberg, but like avant-garde is like the stuff that highlights the contradictions of the worlds we live in, and like the rough stuff in like that album like really do just highlight those like contradictions, like, and it is a self-contradictory like piece of art. Like it's really really important, I think, for like art to have like contradictions and like be to
Yeah.
some degree like kind of fucked up, but like because we don't live in a nice place, like we just don't.
Yeah,
It's not
immediately
necessarily
feels fake if you. It's
Yeah.
like the Green Album. You hear somebody like, just the Green Album comes across so forced and artificial.
Yeah.
Whereas it's the
And I think politics is like the world, like the place where you manifest a better world. I don't think art necessarily is. I think art is more of a reflection of the contradictions of this world than kind of manifesting a different different place to live. I think like a lot of people think that like art should do politics jobs and vice versa, but like I think that like art like pretty much contradictions of the world, highlighting those and seeing how those emotionally play out. Maybe in that process you could see them being different in the same way that like Kafka imagines a world so horrible that like you can only acknowledge the absurdity of the world that like Kafka's imagining and then be like, okay, well it doesn't have to be this way. Like it's just like, like Gregor's a bug, but like how do we make sure what happened to Gregor doesn't happen to someone else? And it's like, because you can't help Gregor, like, right, like you can't fix Gregor's situation, but you can make sure that like nothing like what happened to Gregor happens, and you could only arrive at that point when you look at the contradictions of the world, like, and see this tragedy unfold, and like you walk away disgusted, and you're just like, well, we got to make sure that don't happen. like we can't like have anything like what happened to Gregor happen to anybody. If anyone becomes a giant bug, we need like a system of taking care of them and like rehabilitating them. Maybe like a bug hotel for like people who've turned into bugs. Like,
See, I've never even interpreted the metamorphosis like that. It just feels so outlandish that
yeah, that's like all of Kafka's work. It's just like the world he presents is so horrible that you like have to like look at it and be like, oh, it's like, yeah, these are like it's horrible because like the world's arranged like that. And like it's so absurd that the world like the reason the world is arranged like that has no meaning. It's like not reasonable in any way, shape, or form. It like could be any way, but it's not. And it's like kind of up to us to like make a better world or whatever. But it's like he's never gonna like present something that's like a heartwarming story. It's always gonna be something that's tortured and awful.
right. That took a dark turn.
Yeah. But that's like there's like a lot of music like that I think too. And I think like we I don't know, like it's also cool that there's stuff that makes people feel good too, I suppose. But yeah, but like our Crumb is like an analog for Rivers, like pretty interesting.
Just Pinkerton Rivers. I don't know about any
Yeah.
other era of Rivers.
He's a hard one to place, I think, like with a visual arts equivalent. I'm like trying to think like who did like
Yeah.
two really interesting things.
I mean, if you're
Doesn't
gonna
have to be
get,
two
if
things,
you're gonna
it could have-
interpret it as their like track record as an artist, then I'm sure there's someone out there. But
I want
like,
to say like Renoir.
okay,
Like Renoir has some really good affectative paintings, but like he also has like piles of like garbage paintings.
I like Renoir and Rivers, and you even get the alliteration. They're both R names.
Yeah, like
We'll go with
Rivers-
Renoir.
Yeah, Rivers and Renoir are, but like maybe Degas. No, Degas like pretty consistently like good as a painter.
He is, but he has a lot of like
But he goes through a
sexual
dark turn.
hang-ups.
Yeah, he
and-
goes through a dark turn like during the Dreyfus affair. But it's then again, I'm like doing the same thing I did with Nolde and comparing him to someone who's like way more awful than he is. Like,
do you think there's any overlap between the artistic, the painting mindset and the musical mindset, seeing as you do both?
I think it depends on the painter and depends on the musician. I think my reinterest in music, which has really only been like the last 4 or 5 years, I think is like probably because I was thinking a lot about pop songs and the paintings I was doing, and just like the way kind of like just like looking at people and projecting that happens in kind of like a painting is really similar to what happens in a pop song. Like with the relationship of self and other in a pop song is really what I'm trying to get at with like the paintings I'm doing. And like with relationships and potential relationships. So a lot of that stuff, like a lot of the like paintings I do, I'm like listening to like similar music, but like a lot of those are like done to cat power or low. But like
Oh,
and then like yeah, just like I think that's like the big overlap on it. I think like those kinds of like sensibility. Like when I think it works easier when you're a figure painter, like because like there's people or whatever, and there's like kind of like in pop music there's a lot of people in the songs, like it's kind of like the figurative version of music.
well, usually a person is singing the song.
Yeah,
But as
also,
far as the music, and so I get what you mean that it's figurative in that sense, but that surprised me to hear you say that, because usually I think of music as like the most abstract art form, unless it has vocals and lyrics, which makes it much more specific. But like just raw music is so abstract. Do you still think, like without the lyrics and the vocals, would you still think music is more figurative?
Oh, maybe not. No, I was talking about like pop music. Pop music is very
Okay.
figurative. Like
Sure.
it's like they're usually talking about a person, but like it's just like maybe not though. Like
What if it's not? What if it's an insular pop song with very abstract lyrics that don't really relate to a person? Would
yeah,
you
it's
still
like just
think
like a
it's...
techno thing. Where it's like geometric abstraction.
What about Around the World by Daft Punk? Is that would that be a figurative painting, or would that be...
That's a Thomas Kincaid painting, like right there.
No way. That's a techno futurist.
Wait, no, I was thinking Celebrate's a Thomas Kincaid painting.
That's a good song too. And is that the correct pronunciation, Kincaid? I always thought it was
I don't know.
Kincaid.
It might be Kincaid. Yeah.
I mean, I've never
Do you ever hear the
watched a
stories
documentary
where
about
like
him or
apparently he
anything.
was like a bad alcoholic and like
He was into barbiturates. I
yeah, he was
think.
like barbiturates and alcohol, which is I think what killed him.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
He like
There's-
apparently was at a Siegfried and Roy show and he just started shouting codpiece.
the fuck?
He's
Maybe
just
he
in
meant
the,
Kincaid
he's
piece.
like yeah, codpiece. That's why I'm misenunciating it. But he just like would be like codpiece, like in the audience,
What the fuck?
screaming at the magicians. Like,
What a weirdo.
he's a weird guy. Very upsetting man.
He's like the bizarro version of Bob Ross, I feel.
Yeah, he is. He's the dark Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Because like Bob Ross is he started out as a military guy and then like he settled down and he became like calm. And then like Thomas Kincaid started probably as a calm guy who turns like more psycho.
Painting all those lovely wintry landscapes and cozy houses will wear on you after a while.
Yeah,
apparently.
apparently he kept his hair like that because it was like a branding thing. Like he couldn't change it legally.
I don't even know what he looked like,
He
really.
was like a drill sergeant. Like he actually like he worked as a drill sergeant for the Navy and like
Wait, who are you talking about?
Bob Ross.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I knew that. I thought you
yeah.
were talking about Thomas.
Thomas Kincaid, that would be less surprising. We'd be like, oh yeah, like that guy's got some rage issues. That guy's like punching
mean,
holes in the drywall.
You look at the paintings, they do not look like that at all.
Yeah.
They look like the most serene, like grandpa painted them or grandmother. But apparently he had some issues, which, I don't judge.
It makes sense. We were talking about the waltzes like on that album, which is
Okay.
like really interesting because like the two songs, like the demo Devotion and then like No Other One, which No Other One to me in that song is like on that album is like the one where it's really acknowledging the partner in that as like another human being and that they have like an actual relationship with like like the person in the relationship knows them better than like nobody knows me like her, nobody knows her like me. Like there's like a
Mhm.
real connection there. Like and like it's really interesting to me that like that's the one song that's in 3-4. Like right. That's the one in a old timey like couples dance format. Like it's a
Mhm.
waltz. Like it's like intended like the designation of that timestamp is for like two things. It's for lullabies and like a type of dance like that was popular in like I think mid 1800s Germany. But yeah, it's just like really interesting that like that demo and then that song that made it to the album are both like the 3-4 song and then everything else 4-4 like
Yeah, I guess he thought we can only have one waltz on this album, so
Yeah,
he went with
he
No
was
Other One, which I
like-
do think is a better song. No Other One is that song just cut me to the core when I first heard it.
It's so good. Like it's just like yeah, that's like a real like I have a real relationship song like where you really
But there's not a lot of songs like that where it's somebody in a what seems like a committed, somewhat happy relationship, but they're just blatantly singing about like it's the best they can do, or like they
yeah,
can't
it's just like
leave and they're trapped
yeah,
in a way.
like and it's like but like there's also just like that line is so beautiful with just like nobody knows her like me, nobody knows me like her. And it's just like really like he could stray for like some like brief sexual interest, but like that fact just like remains completely true. Like
But my favorite lyric is that he can't do that. He says,
No.
I would,
Though I-
would.
now I
what-
never could with one.
Yeah, I
like,
never
it's-
could like be with anyone
yeah,
else. So
it's really there's really something beautiful about that being the only song in the album that's like not about a theoretical person aside from Butterfly, which I think is about a person that you hurt, but like
yeah,
I think everything else is like it's just like everything else is like the other is like not necessarily an existing relationship or like is like a terminated relationship or something like to that effect. But that one really is like it's really heartfelt. It's a really good song.
Yeah,
Like,
just
she's got a tattoo and 2 pet snakes.
yeah.
Like,
She
all
seems
the things,
cool.
all the drugs she does scares me real good. Like, that's a really good line.
Yeah, I forgot that was the
It's
same
like-
song.
it's like you could love someone and like they could be driving you away with this problem or whatever, and like you still can love them, and like that goes back to like being a fan of Weezer is like loving a drug addict.
Yeah, it ties
Like
in perfectly.
nobody knows me like him, and nobody knows him like me.
A bunch of Weezer fans should get together and do a cover of No Other One directed at Rivers, adjusting the
It's just
lyrics.
like, he's like, we'll go to your shows, man. Just like you got to release one good album every 10 years.
I mean, he's prolific. He's been putting out a lot of music. I'm sure there's people out there who are listening to it. People are going to all these Weezer tours, and I'm sure having a decent time. But like,
Did I tell you I went to Korn ironically like 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Like I just like went to a Korn show because like I always wanted to go to Korn as a
you
kid.
say ironically, but you wanted to go.
No, I wanted to go. I wanted to go. Like for sure. Like I discovered that while there. But like I wanted to go to Korn when I was like 13, and I never got to because my parents were not because my parents were trying to protect me from the evil of Korn's music, but like because they were too lazy to drive me to Chicago, drive back to Beecher, and then drive to Chicago again, and then back to. They didn't want to drive 200 miles in one day. And like,
Makes sense. Where was that show at?
it was like at the Allstate Arena or something back then, but like I think
Okay.
it was still called Rosemont Horizon back then, but maybe not. It was like
I think you're right. Yeah,
yeah, it
it's
was like early
a-
2000s.
The
I think
Wolves
this-
hockey stadium. I
yeah,
think.
it was really funny because like I went to like Korn, right? And like I feel like if they only played stuff from the first 4 albums, I would have walked away from it thinking like actually Korn's great. But like I still walked away from it thinking actually like Follow the Leader is a really good album.
Do they have newer stuff they played instead?
Oh my god, there's like so much new Korn stuff, and
Wow.
all of it's very not good. Like a lot of the old stuff's like maybe not good either. But Follow the Leader
Man.
is really good, like sonically.
Do you think anyone in the audience genuinely likes the new Korn?
Oh, they do, yeah. Well, but I think a lot of it's nostalgia. Like when I went, like it was like a lot of families. Like it was in the
Exactly.
it was in the New World Music Theater, and it was like a lot of like 40-year-old guys with their families, and like that's kind of cool actually. I was expecting to see like a rare guy in Jinko jeans, like, but I didn't. Like,
Fashion.
yeah, I was
you
like there
cannot-
for
you cannot
I
change
was there for
fashion.
like the aesthetics and like for some of the bad songs, and like Jonathan Davis is pretty hammy on stage like sometimes, and we were pretty far back.
I don't know that venue.
New World Music Theater, it's the
Where's
Tweeter
that?
Center. Like
Oh, they
yeah.
changed the name again.
Yeah, they changed it. Like when I was a kid, it was New World Music Theater, and then it was Tweeter Center, and then it's like something else now. It's First Midwest Bank Amphitheater, I think. Now.
Right. Oh, I didn't know World Music Theater was the original name.
Yeah, that was the original name before it was like owned by a company. Tweeter made more sense because that was like a speaker company, but for a while it was New World Music Theater. Allstate Arena was originally Rosemont Horizon because like this
Yeah,
big
I
building.
remember that. It just makes you think that's just the curse of every musician to have a couple great albums at your peak or probably early in your
Yeah.
career, and then you're just never matching the
I think-
heights of that.
Yeah, I think like when people retire, it's like good. Like when Jay-Z retired the first time, that was good. He like shouldn't have came back, like because he can only write weird alienated songs now.
Man, everyone just has a couple great works in them, and
Yeah,
then
I
it's
think-
just like you may as well switch. You may as well be like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan and switch to golf or
I think
baseball or
that's
something.
not a bad thing. Like I think taking some time to like live stuff because like I think the guy from Bad Religion said that maybe like right like where he was saying that like he like would take long breaks between albums because like he didn't want to write songs about being on the road. And like I think that's just kind of what happens. Like
Good for him.
yeah,
like, I don't think the world needs that much music. It's these people, like, there's so many artists and so many bands that if you have the good fortune and the luck and the talent to make a couple iconic albums like Weezer did in the 90s, if you want to
Yeah,
tour, if you need to make money, tour those albums, I guess.
just keep touring them. Like I feel like Rivers would make a shitload of money if he just kept playing those albums. Like,
But then
probably be
you'd feel
pretty
so
bored.
artistically
Yeah, it feels so
bankrupt.
bad. Like, but like if he took like 15 years between like Pinkerton and Green album, like he might have like had something really good, like with like a life. He could have written songs about like getting married, like and things like that, and that whole thing. If he wasn't just like doing all these like in between, so I don't know.
I bet he has written songs about his
He probably has. He probably just doesn't
marriage.
share those.
Or they're out there on. Have you heard every song from every Weezer album of the last 20 years?
I couldn't do Pacific Dream. It was just like I heard like 2 songs on Pacific Dream and I like really checked out because it sounded like 21 Pilots, and I think the guy from 21 Pilots was involved in the production. And like it just like it was like a lot of like Rivers doing like quasi rap stuff and like aesthetically just like sounded like a 20, like everything sounded like 21 Pilots that year, and it was
Yeah.
really bad, and 21 Pilots is also really bad. But like
But okay, but you've heard a fair, substantial amount of their
I've heard a lot of
recorded
their
album.
like post like Green album stuff. Like I heard the Red album. I
And
heard
nothing
Everything Will
seems
Be.
really vulnerable and personal.
I think Everything Will Be Okay in the end. I think that's the name of the album, or I think that's the name of it. But like that one has some ones that actually stick out. Like there's a song about Cleopatra, which is like pretty good in there. And then there's also a song where he's kind of apologizing for making Say It Ain't So. Like, he feels like
Specifically?
he feels like he was too hard on his dad. And he
Mm.
writes the song from the perspective. I think he has a kid now. I think like he wrote the song from the perspective of being a father and just like thinking about what it's like to have your kid hate you. And he wrote like a really heartfelt song about his dad, I think, which was pretty good.
So maybe I'm too harsh on Rivers and saying he's not written any like really personal,
Yeah, yeah.
specific stuff in a long time. Because there are songs. As a songwriter, you gotta write from what you know. But apparently, he hasn't written much about his marriage and like.
Yeah, it's like
I want to
really
hear the really
you would
weird personal shit,
I
like
really want to hear like
the
what that
Pinkerton equivalent of what married life
yeah,
for
like
Rivers
what's
is.
that like, and it's
Just get really
like
vindictive and like have an argument with your wife and write
on
a
the
song like
track.
about airing all your dirty laundry to
It's
the
like
world.
accounting stuff.
Yeah, just
Like,
if he's having like tax troubles, I
yeah.
want to hear a song about it.
Like
Just
the IRS is coming.
that would be badass. And if he recorded, part of it is just the presentation. If he recorded it with the same honesty and rawness as Pinkerton, which no one does anymore, this is
Yeah.
more an indictment of modern music production than it is Rivers.
It really, yeah. I think Melodroid would have hit a lot harder with like the right producer on it, like
Yeah,
just
it's
someone who could
not
like
a
because
good
Rivers was
good
like
album.
doing this for the first time, and I think like Rivers is the guy who would just like plug everything into a tape deck and then just like record. I'm like that. Like,
I
and it's
remember
like
thinking it was a good sounding album. It sounded fine, but in hindsight, it just sounds really fake and overly processed.
it sounds like it's like also sounds like classic rock, like which is kind of funny. Like just the production on it sounds very like 80s hair metal in a weird way.
I think that's when Rivers was playing a Gibson Explorer.
Yeah, yeah. He just like I mean that's like one of his like proclivities, I think, if that's the right word.
Oh yeah, he
He
started life
he
as like
loves
a
that
hair
stuff.
metal
Yeah,
band.
like he loves Kiss. Like he's totally into that stuff. So it makes sense that he would produce the album to be like Kiss sounding, but
Yeah, I just don't see Weezer writing any pop hits.
yeah, never
anymore.
again. I don't think like that's the funniest part. He thinks he's gonna do that and he's not going to, and he used to do that, and he actually did that in Pinkerton, and he doesn't realize that. Like,
Yeah, what you've told me about his relationship with Pinkerton, like not playing the songs live and in the tours following
Antagonizing
it,
people.
it sounds like the exact example of somebody only hearing the negative comments and not listening to any positive.
Yeah.
Because there's mega fans of Pinkerton.
No,
There's
there's
a
just
lot of
tons of
Weezer
them.
fans
Like
think it's his best work.
I feel like I could change him. I could write him a letter. No,
I'm sure he's gotten a lot of
yeah, it's probably
those.
gotten a lot of those. Like, hey man, it's okay. You could just like write like you did. But I think that like
He probably just doesn't have that fire in him
yeah,
anymore.
like
And
I just don't think that like Rolling Stone isn't ever gonna write like a music review that's gonna be like earth-shatteringly like insightful. I think to anything they're reviewing because just like the amount of albums they're listening to, the relationship to it is just as like a straight up like consumption like listening review kind of thing.
what was the gist of the Rolling Stone review of Pinkerton? I didn't read it.
Oh, I mean, like they really hated it. It really fucked him up. I think he got a negative review. I think like they didn't like the album because it was dark. I think they also like said the album was creepy, which like to a degree maybe, but not really. Like it's like a pop album.
That's why it's interesting.
It's a pop album that highlights all of the like worst instincts in people that everybody has. Like if I think like a lot of people are like that. Like and that's why it has mass appeal. Is like a lot of people think like Rivers Cuomo does, and I think a lot of people are like conditioned to think like Rivers Cuomo does, and I think that like you really have to wrestle with that, and like for Rivers in those songs to acknowledge that like this thinking's wrong, and like it makes me feel awful, and is really really important to overcoming that. But a lot of people really can't get past like they can't get like a lot of people have trouble with like something being more right than it is wrong, or like just like something that's like presented as the contradictions it contains. It's like here's the contradictions, and it's like not rising above the contradictions but implicating yourself in the contradictions. Like that's harder for people than like I see the contradictions and I know how to fix them. Like being like I see the contradictions and I don't know how to fix them. Like it's like a harder thing to deal with than like
Yeah.
here's how we fix it. Like it's just that's what good art does, is like highlights contradictions, not necessarily pointing towards like a better or more positive way of being, but like does let you look at them and be like, oh yeah, this is fucked up. We should hope that like people's view of romantic partnership changes, and that like it's not such a hurtful and like sad like area of someone's psyche to like be in, and like why is it like that. And you really could arrive at that with like Pinkerton, I think. But like if he was like pointing at a more positive way to be romantically involved, maybe you couldn't. Like
Well, he seems to have figured it out for himself.
he did. No, he
That's
did.
probably
like,
why he hasn't written an album like it.
yeah,
since,
it's
'cause
like
he's
he
been
did figure it
happily
out.
married.
Yeah. He did like solve the problem. He did like he's in like a decent relationship. It's
Yeah, so we shouldn't even desire another album like
yeah, we really
Pinkerton
shouldn't.
from Weezer.
Like it's like maybe mean. Like
It's yeah, like we want the same type of emotional honesty. We don't want him to go through that kind of
yeah, I don't
turmoil.
want to. I don't want to see him go through like that part of someone's psyche, which is very like mid-20s and like
It is.
yeah, it's really
Pinkerton's an album of his mid-20s. So
it's the best example of a quarter life crisis, like in music. Like just like I'm not married, like I'm successful and not married, and like it's just like the pain of that, and like it's just like
yeah, and you can tell he's like a perpetual misfit, has trouble with the opposite sex or just relationships
yeah,
in
yeah.
general.
And like that's the other thing too. Like like there's like ladies like that, like who have the same like things where they're like projecting like my partner will like solve my life, like solve all my life's problems thing into them, and like back and forth it kind of goes that way, which is like really what makes the album interesting and like really relatable. Like no matter what sex you are, I think it's just like what no matter what gender you are, it's just like you could kind of relate to that. There's like women who are as codependent as Rivers is and on that album, and
Oh yeah,
vice versa.
totally.
Yeah, it's just like the world failed Pinkerton in like 1995. And, like we really should have received that album better than we did.
I mean, it wasn't us. We were
Like,
we
it
were
was
probably
me.
too young for its target audience.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the idea of a piece of art being before its time, I don't think it's a cause for grief or anything.
no,
It's kind of
definitely.
beautiful
Yeah.
when something gets
Yeah.
what it's due a bit later. And I think pretty soon after, if on the Green album people were wishing to hear Pinkerton songs, you can tell it found an audience pretty soon.
Yeah. It was really.
Maybe it just wasn't the immediate tour cycle and album review phase that they were hoping for, but it doesn't mean
Yeah, he did
you
make.
shouldn't.
Yeah, he probably will continue to make money off that album, even like.
Good. He deserves it, or
Yeah.
they deserve it. However the royalties are split on Weezer stuff. Do you know if he's listed as the only songwriter on that album, or is it like written
I'm
by
not sure.
Weezer?
Yeah,
or-
that'd be really interesting because there is a legal dispute with Matt Sharp, and I'm just like, I'm really interested in that dynamic. I should look into that conflict more again. Like, it's just like, yeah, they had like, I think they had like a dynamic that like improved the band.
Well, you could either look at it that way, or you can just look at it as that was Rivers' creative peak, and he is the
Yeah,
leading
like, it
force
could be
behind
either
the
way.
band.
Yeah, Matt Sharp's exact quote is like along the lines of like, well, I'm sure if I was on the new Weezer albums, if they suck, they would still suck. Which is a very neutral way of doing it. If they suck, well, then my involvement would mean that they still suck.
I think that's a fair assessment. Maybe we should move on to the musical segment. What do you think?
I'm up for it.
Because we got some covers of Weezer songs to fumble our way through that, and I think we're already like at the 2-hour mark, which is gonna need to be cut down a bit. I think, yeah, we're over 2 hours. Any final thoughts?
Rivers Cuomo is a cool guy, and I agree with all the things he says.
Me too. I endorse Rivers. What if he ends
Everybody
up?
should be like him.
He's not too old to maybe consider a career in politics. Maybe he'll be our president one day.
I think the Como name in politics is like pretty much destroyed, even though he has no relationship.
Yeah, does he have any relation to the
to the Como brothers? No, his brother's name is Leaves, actually, which is really funny.
I hadn't even thought of that. Maybe there's some distant relation. We talked about 23andMe earlier. Do you know what Rivers' genetic makeup is? Because those Cuomo brothers look very Italian.
Yeah, they
I
look
would assume
really.
they're Italian.
It would make sense if he's Italian. Like, I
You
just
think Rivers is Italian?
I mean, he might be.
The name sounds Italian, but he doesn't strike me as
No, I don't think he
being
does.
super Italian.
Yeah. I wonder where.
But
his
who
family's
knows?
from. You have to look into his dad. He doesn't have a good relationship with his dad, as evinced by the song "Say It Ain't So."
By the way, this is what the beginning of Across the Sea always. I think it's just the strings of a guitar strummed open, which always frustrated me on tab sites as a kid trying to learn these songs. They would always say, "Oh, it starts on a G chord," but I'm like, no, that
that's
just
just
sounds like.
The guy picked up the guitar and strummed it.
Which is perfect. I love
that's a sound volume check. I
love how it interrupts the piano and flute solo with just distorted
off-key,
noise.
Like,
We sign off. This has been another episode of the ArtCast. Dylan here signing off. Thank you, Kevin Stuart,
Thank
for
you.
joining me on this.
it was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you and talking about Weezer. And
Yeah, like
covering Weezer.
Rivers is complicated, and he's like the guy in Say It Ain't So. Wait, yeah, I'm not going to confront him. I can't do that; would hurt him.
He's.
But I forgive him. That's the opposite. It's not like the guy in Say It Ain't So. I totally forgive him.
Yeah. In spite of years of silence, he's cleaned up, found Jesus. Things are good, or so we hear.
His bottle of Stevens.
What is Stevens anyway?
I think it's a type of liquor.
That's what I assume from the context, but I don't know.
Apparently he's saying the word
liquor.
wee peel. Wee peel's not a real word. What the fuck's wee peel?
Stevens must be like a bourbon or something.
I think it's
don't know what it is.
something hard. I mean, it's named Stevens.
Yeah, he also mentions Heine in that Heineken, right? Somebody's Heine is crowding my ice.
Yeah, he's the Heineken Stevens. I think he's the Stevens drinker, and then the other guy's the Heineken drinker.
You're right.
Because like this bottle of Stevens is awakening ancient feelings, and then somebody's Heine is crowding the icebox. Which lyrically, that's really good because it's also kind of like slang for your butt's in the way. You're too big, man. Like for this space.
I was about to say Heine also has
Like,
another.
yeah, it's really, really smart. He's a smart guy.
I've never doubted that.
Yeah, never really did.
What about the special goodness?
Oh, that was Patrick's project. I don't know
know.
exactly what that was.
Man, I'm hoarse from all that screaming.
Yeah,
Weezer
no, like I'm
songs.
like my voice is
can't talk
completely
anymore.
shot.
I don't think I've screamed like that maybe ever.
No, I don't think I have. I've never thrown out my voice like.
I mean,
just like-
you sound. Do you feel tightness in your vocal cords?
like,
Because
yeah,
I definitely do.
Definitely irritation. Like something swollen.
Yeah, I can like hardly
We
speak.
we did a really good across the sea. I'm like really excited about that.
Yeah, I think we got to get a lot of good ones. I hope we did you proud, Rivers. I hope you see this on YouTube at some point. Just get everyone we know to spam tweet at Rivers
just
to
like
watch this.
re-enlist Matt as the keyboard player. I think that'll solve all the problems. Maybe not. Legally, Morrissey should be forced in a band with Johnny Marr. He's the only man who can keep him in check.
I think they hate each other.
Was there like a guy who made like Kanye more grounded? I think it's Kid Cudi. I think that's it. I think Morrissey and Kanye are the same guy.
Probably similar type of person.
Yeah, like similar, like say awful things and power through it. But like...
Goddamn, you half Japanese girls. You do it to me every time. And all the redheads said you shred the cello. Well, I'm cello, baby. You won't talk, won't look, won't think of me. I'm the epitome of public enemy. Why you gotta go do me like that? Come down on the street and dance with me. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you, and you would be good for me. I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You said you never heard of them. How cool is that? How cool is that? So I went to your room and read your diary. Watching girls leg drop New Jack through a press table. And then my heart stopped listening to Cho-Cho Sam. Fall in love all over again. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you, and you would be good for me. How stupid is it? I can't talk about it. I gotta think about it and make a record of my minute. Gotta give me a minute. Just come up to me and say hello. How stupid is it? For all I know, you want me to, and maybe you just don't know know what to do. Maybe you're scared to say I'm falling for you. I wish I could get my head out of the sand, 'cause I think they make a good team, and you would keep my fingernails clean. But that's just a stupid dream that I won't realize, 'cause I can't even look in your eyes without shaking, and I ain't faking. I'll bring home the turkey if you bring home the bacon. I'm alive like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. Oh, I think I'd be good for you, and you would be good for me.
All right. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.